I remember being in high school and the peak of makeup was the completely matte, full coverage, flawless base with no glow in sight. Then highlighters started to get a little bit popular, and I remember buying the NARS Albatross highlighter, which is this white gold highlight, putting it on and just not really like loving it on my skin. Given it has a white base but the gold shift, it was just so bizarre to have a shimmer on the skin when matte skin was all I knew of. And then as highlighters started to get even more popular, Champagne Pop from Becca was just like the peak of the highlighter, not really a trend, but the resurgence of highlighters. But if you have pale skin or cool undertones, you know that just that era of highlights, there was so many like rich golds and yellow golds and just a lot of warm tones. Me, they'd always cast really dark, and I was just like, why does everyone love these but they're so unflattering on me? And years later, I do feel like we're still swimming in a market that's filled with like Champagne Pop-esque highlighters that are these gold tones that are usually too dark for my skin. So if you have a lot of those issues with highlighters being too dark, the tones looking off on you, I have tons of recommendations here. Some undertones or shades you may have never thought of trying. If you just feel like highlighters always tend to look a little bit off on you, this is going to be the ultimate guide. I have an array of formulas. We're going to be going over powder highlighters, liquid highlighters, and cream highlighters as well. So get cozy, get a drink, and let's go ahead and get started. And if you do enjoy these types of videos from me, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a like so I know that you enjoyed these videos, and let me know what kind of product area you want me to delve into next. Let's go ahead and get started with my powder highlights. So I have a lot of array of formulas here, whether you like a subtle highlight or a more dramatic highlight. I will be describing each one as I go through the products. So first off is one from Laura Mercier. I feel like this is such an underrated highlight. It's actually called their Matte Radiance Baked Powder in the shade Highlight 01. I believe they only have 1 or 2 shades of this, and looking at this, it looks a little bit peachy, and I didn't really think that it would work for my skin, but this has such a beautiful finish. If you like a really natural, smooth highlight, you should be able to see like the level of shimmer on my finger here. It's really smooth, and it does not have like a chunky shimmer at all. Shade wise, when you do sheer it out, say with a fan brush, I don't find that this casts dark on my skin at all, and you can barely see it on my hand. So it's a very natural, glowy, just like glowing from within type of powder. Doesn't look like a powder. I love the baked formulation of it. It's so smooth. This is just such a hidden gem of a highlight. You've probably heard me talk about it before, but like if I'm just going for an everyday natural glow and I don't want it to like accentuate texture or anything, this is the go-to. Next is another surprise hit for me. I would not look at this shade and think that it would work for my skin at all. This is from Fenty Beauty. It's their Killawatt Freestyle Highlighter Duo. This is the duo in Girl Next Door and Chic Phreak. So this just right off the bat looks like it's too dark. I will say that this shade over here, the Chic Phreak shade, is slightly dark for my skin and a little bit too golden, but this shade right here is so pretty. It's a really beautiful, like smooth light pink type of shade. It definitely gives you a little bit more of that like glossy type of wet look, I would say. To the touch, these powders are extremely smooth, but especially compared to next to that Laura Mercier one, you should be able to see that it gives you more of like a, it's still not a chunky shimmer at all. It's beautiful on the skin, but it just is a little bit more just glowy looking. So here is that lighter pink shade. This is gorgeous. I don't find that it casts dark on my skin. I will go ahead and swatch this other side in case you were curious. If you have darker skin, like slightly darker than mine, I think you might be able to pull this off. It is very orange though, so I kind of wish that they had it with a different shade in here, but you know, it could work. I still feel like it was worth the mention though, because I absolutely love the lighter shade in this duo. Next up is a nice highlighter option from the drugstore. This one is from CATRICE, and this is the Supreme Rose Beam highlighter. It has a really pretty like flower embossing on it, and this one is very like, it's a metallic-y type of highlight. So whenever I'm applying this, I would definitely go in with a fan brush. Like that's just one swipe of my finger compared to all those other ones, which are slightly more subtle. This one is pigmented and it's definitely more metallic. Makes a beautiful eyeshadow though. So yeah, you can see just how much shine this has. If you apply it heavily, it might cast a little bit dark on you, but as I blend it in, it just gives you like the most gorgeous pink type of glow. And for a drugstore highlight, I feel like it's extra hard to find a shade that works, so this one is a drugstore gem. So I have a couple more like more traditional shades here, and then I have my favorites for powder highlights that have a little bit more of a unique undertone. If you feel like these like pink or more champagne shades don't necessarily flatter you. But let's go ahead into this trio from KAJA. I love this. It's their Buttercup Play Bento. So you actually have a matte blush on the top here. In the middle is the highlighter I'll be swatching, and then on the bottom you get a cream bronzer. This middle highlight is more of a champagne gold. It is so soft. It's almost like a little bit crumbly how soft it is. It kind of feels like silky between your fingers. This one I would say if you're super fair might cast a little bit dark on you. I don't know. It is really flattering though. I don't find that it casts like too yellow or too dark on my skin. It almost has a similar level of shine to the CATRICE one, where it's a little bit more on that metallic side, but the tone of it's a little bit more nude compared to pink. I think it's a really gorgeous option, especially if you're also interested in like the blush and the bronzer version. So this next one is one that I recently tried, so a new one to me as well. It's the What's Up Beauty Serengeti Highlighter Duo Palette in the shade Wild Acacia. So this is like a bit of a duo highlighter. It's a beautifully embossed formula. So the pink you have up here is a really beautiful pink. It has like a slight gold undertone to it, definitely more like pigmented, slightly more metallic highlight. And then the animal, which is a tiger I believe, is like a white frosty shade. So you could obviously mix these or wear them on their own. I will do the shades swatched separately and then we'll do one mix. So those are pigmented, there's the white and then more of the pinky gold, and then together they make a nice like more muted type of highlight. I think this one is beautiful if you like a slightly more dramatic highlight, but it's nice and smooth. It has this like beautiful, luxurious feeling type of formula, and the packaging, gorgeous. And then I also really love this Dior palette. It's their Universal Glow palette. They did just come out with a holiday collection which has this white shade, a pink shade, also like a purpley blue shade, which I think would be beautiful if you have fair skin and you like really like cool undertones. Because for me, I don't really use this side of the palette besides for eyeshadow. These two are my favorite here. I think these are such beautiful, like it's almost a combination of being smooth and metallic at the same time. They definitely have a unique formulation to them. I am like almost hitting pan on the white. I'll usually either use the white or I mix them together with my fan brush. So this is the white shade, and then we have the pink. The pink looks quite pigmented, but when I apply it with a fan brush, especially mixed with the white, it kind of dims it down and it doesn't really pull like it's too dark on my skin. It kind of just looks like a really pretty like pink glow. So although this is more of a luxury option, I just find myself reaching for this so much because I like the fact that I can mix them and the formula is just so smooth and pretty. Now into the more like non-traditional type of highlights. This one I always recommend if you feel like you've tried a bunch of different highlighter undertones and none of them flatter you, or if you have olive skin. I really love this one from HAUS Labs. This is the shade Moonstone. This is the first ever silver highlight that I tried and I absolutely love it. The formula is a gorgeous baked formula, definitely more of like a slightly metallic type of shine to it, but it almost has like a more sheer base to it. It just looks insanely beautiful on the skin, and the undertone, that cool silver, it doesn't pull like as bold as you would think. It's just one I always recommend if you're like, I haven't really found my type of like highlighter undertone yet. This one is good. It like almost pulls white, but it has that really cool like, I don't know, it's just gorgeous. And then this brand KALEIDOS offers some really unique undertones for highlighters. I have a couple of them. This is the Space Age one, which has this like green gold type of look. They're so pigmented, like so metallic. I would say these are not for the faint of heart. Like you have to love a highlight to get this, but I just love that they have these like really unique, kind of weird but cool undertones. They have a bunch of different ones. If you were someone who liked I had the KVD, the like triangle highlight palette that had a bunch of different like unique shades in it, I think this would be like a cool brand to check out. If you do remember that palette, let me know because I used to love it. And then we have these really cool ones from ColourPop. These are from the Sailor Moon collab. I just checked, they're still available. They're actually on sale now. I think you could get both of these in the duo for $12. So definitely check them out if you're liking these tones. So first off, this is the Moonlight Pressed Powder Highlight. Now this looks like kind of just like a plain pink highlight, but it actually has a really pretty lavender blue shift to it. And the ColourPop highlighters, at least this formula, is a really smooth, not as like shimmery type of highlight. Like it definitely is shimmery, but it looks a lot smoother on the skin if you're more of that type of highlight kind of person. or if you just want like a variety of formulas, I think it's nice. So this pulls nice and like lavender and almost blue on the skin, which I find really flattering. And then we also have the Moon Kingdom Pressed Powder Highlight. This has Artemis on the front. This is the like more pigmented purple version, but also has that like blue shift in it. So although this one is like brighter and a little bit more of like a dramatic kind of purple shade, I find that with a fan brush, when you take this and then sort of sheer it out, I'll do it on my wrist, it gives you like a purple glow, and you're not really getting as much of that like pigment as it like seems to give you, you know. Almost works as like a blush and highlight. Alrighty, next we can move into our liquid highlights. Not a huge category here, but a lot that I really like. First off, I love this one from SURRATT. This is their Froufrou Artiste Liquid Highlighter. It has a little sponge tip to it, and then you crank it out of the top. And it is a really nice liquid highlight. I find with liquid highlights, at least with my experience with them in the past, they dry too quick. They're way too metallic. This is like a modern take on a liquid highlight, and I love this light purple shade. It's a really creamy formula, so it basically has a white base, but it has like a really pretty purple glow to it, and then it dries down. It's non-texture enhancing, and it lasts forever. Like, it doesn't really come off. It performs just as well as a powder highlight, so I really love the like subtle like ethereal glow that this one gives. It's a really beautiful, unique formula and shade. This is also a pretty unique one. This is from TYPOLOGY, and this is actually their Vitamin C 5% Glow Drop. Now these you can like mix into moisturizer, but I've also worn these as a highlight on its own, so I thought it would be a fun one to mention. And again, a shade I wouldn't like look at and think it would work for me because it looks like a little bit too gold. This is a super liquidy formula, and I just feel like it's so pretty on the skin. It has this like watery base to it, but you still get that like gorgeous glow. It has a lot of like white and silver pearl to it, and the base is quite sheer. So when you apply it, it really is just like such a gorgeous finish. And I was surprised that it worked pretty decently over makeup as well, but it's also a gorgeous one to mix into products. So this is another one. I feel like liquid highlighters are great if you want something that's like a little bit smoother looking on the skin, and you could really just like work into your skin and have it look like you're glowing from within without worrying about it being powdery. Beautiful options. And then I was debating whether or not to share this one because it's kind of like a under makeup luminizer, but I just love it so much, and it's such a good drugstore option. I really wanted to include it. And it's the Covergirltrublend Skin Enhancer in Jelly Opal Glow. The shade, I feel like in the tube, is a little bit deceiving almost. So this is again a liquid formula. It's much more gel-like though, and super sheer, but for being like a more sheer formula, it is like a very glowy, like definitely slightly more on the shimmery side, but it doesn't look like glitter on the skin. The shade in the tube, like, it doesn't really look like this on the skin. It's really just like a sheer pearly white, so I don't find it pulls dark on my skin. So this is beautiful to mix into moisturizer under makeup. You could probably also pop this over makeup and have it look great. And then this one, I was like, is it a liquid? Is it a cream? It's kind of both, so I just threw it in the liquid category because it does come in a tube. This is from Bare Minerals, and it's actually their highlighting blush, but it's so light that I really wanted to include it in this highlighter video. It's called Rose Glow. I have a full video where I swatched all of these and put them on. So this looks like a really light pink. That was way too much product. These are really creamy and emollient. Out of the liquids we mentioned, this one is like moisturizing feeling. The other ones are more of like a liquid gel that will dry down and not really feel like anything. These are super moisturizing and really glowy, and I love this like light pink shade. Could wear this as a blush if you're super pale, but it also makes a great like pink highlight. So I had to mention this one because they really are like beautiful if you're looking for a moisturizing formula. And then we have our cream category, which is definitely last but not least because there is so many options that I love here in cream highlights. First is this one from RMS Beauty. If you're looking for something that's sheer, creamy, moisturizing, like a really subtle highlight, this is their Living Luminizer. This is just like a little pot of a really creamy emollient formula. It basically has like a completely sheer base to it, and then it just gives you a really nice like pearly glow. really blendable into the skin if you have super dry skin and you're looking for something that's just like more skincare makeup. This is a nice option. And I do have an affiliate code with them. Lindsay M20 gets you 20% off. So if you want anything from them, just make sure not to pay full price because I do have that code for you. So this is a beautiful option if you just wanted something like natural and really easy. And we have the Pixi On The Glow Super Glow Stick in the shade Pearl, Ice Pearl. I've actually already talked about this quite a lot since I got it and it's new to me. They also have a really pretty lavender shade. You can find these at Target. These are their highlighting moisture sticks. Kind of reminds me of the RMS ones, but these have more pigment and they're a lot less like, they're still dewy, but they have less of that like super, not that the RMS one is oily, but it definitely feels a little bit more emollient. So this one is buildable and it's just like a really gorgeous, true pearly white. Still gives you that like moisture glow as the name suggests, and it's just such a beautiful shade for fair skin, especially at Target/drugstore. I don't know what to consider Pixi. They're kind of like in between, but yeah, this one is beautiful. Another beautiful pearly white option. I feel like with cream products, there tends to be a little bit more of these pearly white shades with like clear bases just because of the way they're formulated. So this one is from OG. This is the Opal Sculpted Face Stick. This one is really pretty. It feels so luxurious. And this one has like a slightly, it's not dry, but drier than those previous two that I mentioned, and you can sort of just slide it onto the skin and then smooth it in. It has a little bit more of like an even type of like color payoff. Like look at that, it is beautiful. It's ultra smooth. These first three are really similar, but this one definitely like looks the smoothest. Also has a slightly cooler undertone than those other two, but I think this one is stunning. These feel very luxurious, and I know you can get them like on packs on Amazon. So I think it's a really beautiful option if you wanted a cream that's like just beautiful and smooth and feels like luxurious when you're wearing it. Oh, I forgot to mention this, but the highlighter I am wearing today is the Moonlight pressed powder one from ColourPop. It's this pink shade, but like on my skin it pulls very blue to go with like my blue eyeshadow look. So wanted to mention that, especially since these are on sale if you like the look of it. And then another really pretty like sheer white shade. I thought it'd be really helpful to like swatch all these next to each other to compare. This is from Merit Beauty and this is their highlighting balm in the shade KAJA. This one is also really emollient and definitely like the sheerest out of these, so I will try to build it up a little bit. This one has a slightly more of like a nude. It's definitely not warm tone, but has more of like a neutral tone to it. Hopefully you can see it there compared to like this one's a little more pink and these are like a little more white toned. It kind of just like blends right into the skin. Reminds me of like the RMS formula, but like sheared out even more. It's not as thick feeling. This is a really smooth, just like boom, boom, boom. You could slide it onto your face and blend it out. It looks really natural and pretty. I also grabbed the Danessa Myricks, the Dew Wet Morning Dew Highlighting Face Balm to swatch for you, because this is also another one that like pretty much has a sheer base. This is like a really emollient formula. It actually has like a little bit of gold to it. This one is very like, it's definitely the most slick feeling. It's kind of hard to describe. I would say it's a little bit more oily feeling for sure. And this one is more of a white gold. So if you wanted like that more sheer base but a slightly more gold finish, I think this one is nice. But if you don't like a super like oily feeling type of product, it's not super oily, but it's just like definitely on that more moisturizing side of highlighters, then I would skip this one. But I still thought it was worth a mention because it still remains to be quite nice and thin. And you thought we were done? No, I still have 3 other creamy stick highlighters. Now these have a slightly different tone than like all of these that we've been swatching. First is the Jane Iredale. This is the Glow Time highlighter stick in the shade Cosmos. This is also a very light base, so it works beautifully for fair skin, but this one has more of a pretty like strong pink shift to it. So if you wanted something with a little bit more of a pink shine, this one is nice. Now these formulas are more, they're creamy, but they have this like silky, satiny, like matte, how to describe it? More of like a dry oil. You know how a dry oil would feel? Imagine that like in stick form is kind of what these have going on. So they're not as like shiny emollient. They're just really easy to blend and also not super dramatic. So they're nice and like natural looking. And yeah, that one's just really pretty if you wanted like a pink glowy highlighter stick. And then from Westman Atelier, I really love this one. You've probably heard me talk about it before. It's the Lit Up highlighter stick in the shade Lit. I feel like this one is so unique because it really is like a true sheer base, but it has a pretty strong like purple shift in it, and this one feels like the most, like it has the most movement to it. Like it's very oily, but it does like melt into the skin. It doesn't really sit on top of the skin, which can kind of be my issues with these like more really emollient, like luxurious balm formulas. But I really love this one, and I love the purple shift to it. This one is very natural looking. Like you're really not getting a lot of like shimmer, thick shimmer particles in it. It's really smooth, it's really natural looking, and just one of my favorites for like a very ethereal glow. Okay, my last stick options, and then I do have some like cream pot highlighters that I like. This is the one I just tried from, I don't know how you say that. Yes Beauty. It's YSE Beauty. This is the Vacation Glow highlighter stick. Should have looked up how to pronounce them. But this is like a gold shade, and I was like, I don't think this is gonna work for me. But it actually is quite nice. Like when I swatch that, you can see that it's dark. But what I really like about this formula is it's like that perfect in between of it's not too oily, but it's nice and blendable, so it's not too dry. And when I blend it out, hope you can see that like the pigment in that really shears out, so I don't feel like it casts dark. And I've just been applying this like with my fingers and tapping it on, and I feel like it gives me a really nice amount of pigment, and it's just a really beautiful highlighter formula. You want something that like gives you a slightly more champagne glow but still isn't too dark. And then I have these two from Rituel des Filles. First is the Phosphine Rare Light Cream Luminizer. I also have the white purple shade. I will link it below. That one I would say is my favorite. I got this shade and I find that it's really pretty if I want more of like a, it's such a unique pink. It's like a pinkish, like I don't even know how to describe it. It's so pretty. It almost has this like muted type of like pink undertone with pink pearl in it, so it looks really natural. I kind of wear this one more as a blush because it is slightly like dark when I do put it on the high points of my face, but I love the undertone and like the shade of it, that it's so beautiful. And if you've never tried the Rituel des Filles formulas, they are more of like a cream that needs to be warmed up, but once they're warmed up they move really nicely, but then once they're on the skin they have a really nice like stick to them, so they don't move around once they are applied. Not sticky, but you know, it's like gripping onto the skin nicely. But yeah, Phosphine, like this one, and I will also link the purple shade that I tried. And then this is probably the most unique highlight in this whole video. This is the Metamorphic highlighter in the shade The Sorcerer, also from Rituel des Filles. This is like the chunkiest, most like glittery, but in a fun, beautiful way highlight, and it has their same like cream formula. This one's a little bit creamier, I feel like, and it just is like the prettiest topper you can imagine. Now that I'm swatching it, it's actually not glittery. It's so intense by just being like really richly packed and metallic. It does have slightly more like visible particles in it. It really is just the most like insanely beautiful and buildable, out of this world kind of glow. If you're just like a highlighter lover and you want something to just really like take any look just to the moon, beautiful. I really love this brand. I'd love to do an updated video on them. If you're interested, let me know. So I know it can seem like sometimes there's just not a lot of highlighter options for fair skin or cool undertones, or if you're just looking for something more unique in general, but these are all the ones that I've tried and like sifted through all the ones that I didn't like to find these gems. I feel like they're so pretty and you really can't go wrong with any of these. Just depends on what kind of formula and finish you like. Everything will be linked below. If you found this helpful, don't forget to give it a like so I know that you did, and don't forget to subscribe as well so you don't miss my next sort of ultimate guide video. Let me know what other topics you'd love me to cover that you really need help with. But thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm gonna go ahead and put another video on the screen here so we can keep hanging out, so don't leave me quite yet. I'll see you over there. Bye.